Okay, this video is over all of the problems on your Properties of Exponents practice sheet. So follow along, and if you need help on any part of it, that's the part that you need to watch. Okay, so here's 1a, and so you notice that both of these things have the same base. It's negative 2 cubed times negative 2 to the 5th power. Since both have the same base, we're just going to add the powers. The base stays the same. It's going to be negative 2 to the 8th power. And that's it. That's all we have to do. Now, you could actually find what negative 2 to the 8th power is, but I want to see that you know that it's negative 2 to the 8th. So you need to have this, and then if you want to write equals 256, you can. Okay, 2b, you're using power of a power. It's parentheses, so you're going to multiply your powers. You're going to give it to each part. I'm going to give it to that 3. Then I'm going to give it to the x. I'm going to multiply those powers. I'm going to get 8. Multiply the powers on y. We get y to the 6th. And then simplify. 3 squared is 9, x to the 8th, y to the 6th. 1c, you're multiplying these things, so you're going to start by multiplying your coefficients. You have 3 times 5 times negative 1, so negative 15. Add your powers on n. You have 5 plus 7, which is 12, minus 6, which is 6. And then add your powers on m. You have 1 plus 3 plus 1. And so 1 plus 3 is 4, plus 1 is 5. And now we've combined all of our n's and m's, and we are done. Anything raised to the 0 power on like 27 to the 0 power equals 1. It doesn't matter what it is. It could be 8x squared y cubed raised to the 0 power. That still equals 1. On e, the only thing that we need to do to simplify is get rid of that negative exponent. Remember, if it has a negative exponent, we have to drop it downstairs. So it would be x squared over y cubed. On f, we're going to start with our coefficients. We're going to simplify 5 over 15, which simplifies to 1 over 3. And then we're going to take care of our x's and y's. We're going to subtract 4 minus 6, which is negative 2, and 10 minus 8, which is positive 2. And then we're going to kick this x to the negative 2 downstairs. So we're going to be left with y squared upstairs and 3x squared downstairs. Okay, on this problem, we are going to have to simplify a couple of times. So I'm going to start on this first part by taking care of this negative 3. I'm going to distribute that to all parts. So I have 4 to the negative 3. Multiply my power on x. So I have x to the negative 9. Over y to the negative 3. And there's a couple of different ways you could go about this. You could go ahead and simplify it as is, or you can simplify this first part first and then multiply them together. That's what I'm going to do. I'm going to simplify that and then multiply by 1 over 3y squared. So I notice that this has a negative power, so it's going to go up. Negative power is going to go down. Negative power is going to go down. We just switch floors. So I have y cubed over 4 cubed x to the 9th times 1 over 3y squared. I'm going to go ahead and multiply across. So I have y cubed times 1 is y cubed. 4 cubed is 64, so I'm going to do that. X to the 9th, y squared. And then the last thing I want to do is I want to combine my y's. And since they're being divided, I'm going to subtract my powers. So y cubed divided by y squared is just y, and then the only thing left on bottom is 64x to the 9th. So quite a bit longer than the problems on number 1. Okay, so on B, I have noticed that I'm dividing two things with the same base, so I'm going to start by subtracting those powers, negative 3 minus negative 4, and you might want to use your calculator for help there, that equals 1, and then x 3 minus 8 is negative 5. So this gets to stay where it is. This gets shoved down to the basement. So I have 3 over x to the 5th. So not quite as hard as A was. Okay, so on this one I'm going to start by rewriting this as 1 over 7 squared. So I don't have to deal with that 15 to the 0. That just equals 1. And then I'm going to multiply by 7 over 5 squared. So multiply across the top and I get 7. Multiply across the bottom, I get 7 squared, 5 squared. So I have 7 to the 1 divided by 7 squared. I'm going to subtract those powers. I get 7 to the negative 1 over 5 squared. That's going to get shoved down to the basement. So everything's in the basement, so I have a 1 left up top. I have 5 squared times 7. 5 squared is 25, times 7 would be 175. So that's my answer, 1 over 175. Okay, a couple different ways to approach this problem. I would probably suggest simplifying what's inside first. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to simplify this stuff first, and then I'm going to worry about this power. So I'm going to start with my coefficients. 3 divided by 5 stays as 3 over 5. X squared over x, I'm going to do 2 minus 1, so I'm going to have x to the 1, or just x. There's no more y's, so just y to the 5th. And then I'm going to subtract my powers on z. Negative 2 minus 5 is negative 7. Shove that down to the basement. So I have 3x y to the 5th over 5z to the 7th. And I have a negative 3, so I'm going to distribute that to everything. So I have 3 to the negative 3, x to the negative 3, and y to the negative 15 over 5 to the negative 3, z to the negative 21. And notice everything has negative exponents, so I'm just going to flip the entire thing upside down. I'm going to have 5 cubed, which is 125, z to the 21, over 3 cubed, which is 27, x cubed, y to the 15th. And so I switched everything. I put the 5q up top, put the z up top, the 3 came down, the x came down, the y came down. So I just flipped everything over to take care of those negative exponents. Last problem, I'm going to start by simplifying this thing right here. And I'm just going to leave that first thing alone for now. And so I have x to the 5th over x to the 8th and y squared over y. So that's going to become, that's going to become x to the negative 3 and y over 8. That's going to have to get shoved down since it's negative. Rewrite this first part here. So it's going to be y over 8x cubed. I'm going to distribute this 3 to both, or to all the parts. So I'm going to have 4 cubed, which is 64, x cubed over 8y cubed times y 8x cubed. So this simplifies to 8x cubed over y cubed. I'm going to multiply across the top. I'm going to have 8x cubed y over 8x cubed y cubed. Notice how these are both on top and bottom, so I'm just going to cancel that out. So I have y over y cubed. Subtract 1 minus 3, which would be negative 2. Drop that down, and I have 1 over y squared as my answer. It's quite a bit harder, so I would watch the second part of the video a couple of times and try to follow along with what we do with the second half of this, and we'll continue to do practice over this in class.